We'd like to thank Noda by M&T Bank for their generous support of this podcast. To learn more, visit trustnoda.com. Terms and conditions may apply.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of On the Road with Legal Talk Network. This is Jared Correia, and I'm the host of this episode, which is being recorded from the ABA Techshow 2021 virtual version. I'm just sitting in my house. Guess who else is sitting in my house? I have with me my friend Bob Ambrogi from LawSites. Hello, Bob. How are you?
Here we are sitting on the virtual floor of ABA Techshow.
Right. It's much cleaner than the actual floor of ABA Techshow, so this is great.
It is, but they could have given us a chair, a virtual chair.
Chair would have been nice. It's starting to get uncomfortable. Bob, you're an old hand at podcasts, but welcome back to the show. Usually you're hosting these things, right?
Yeah. I'd rather be on. I like being on your side of the mic better than the other.
I won't make it too difficult for you. I promise.
No trick questions.
Not for you. All softballs. So before we get started, let's do the thing where you tell people about yourself. Where do you work? What do you do? I know, but does the audience know? We'll find out.
I am here in Massachusetts, not too far from you. I write a blog called LawSites where I cover legal tech and innovation. I also have a podcast called LawNext where I cover legal tech and innovation. I have a weekly, we do a weekly now little legal tech week roundtable podcast show, whatever, every Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock Eastern with a whole panel of bloggers and tech journalists where we talk about the week's news, and that's available as a podcast as well. And I do various other things. And I actually practice law a little bit.
I feel like those are only the highlights. Like, you got so much stuff going on. And what I would tell people is check out everything you can find from Bob. He's great. He's always breaking news, always talking about interesting stuff. And despite the fact that we live probably like 10 miles from each other, I haven't actually seen you in a year. So hopefully that's about to change soon.
I know it. I haven't seen anybody in a year.
Well, thanks for joining us today. Today we're going to talk about the 2021 ABA Startup Alley pitch competition. So for those not in the know, can you tell folks what the ABA Startup Alley pitch competition even is, and how long has it been around?
Yeah, well, this is the fifth time we've done this. This will be the fifth annual Startup Alley. And the idea really was to feature, I think the first year we did it, I think there was a feeling by some of the people at Techshow that they, there's a lot of activity going on in the startup space in the legal technology world, but the exhibitors at Techshow tended to be the more established companies that actually had budgets to exhibit
right.
and that sort of a thing. And so they wanted to create a way for up-and-coming startups to be able to be featured at Techshow. So the way we've done it in the past, in back when this was a bricks and mortar event, and hopefully it'll again be a bricks and mortar event
next
year,
calling it,
is to run a competition. And we did it. The first year we did it in collaboration with Above the Law. They have not been part of it since that first year. But we ran a competition. Companies could nominate themselves to be part of this process. And we had this panel of judges that kind of picked finalist companies, and then we posted the finalists up on a number of blogs, on my blog, on the ABA Techshow blog, and some other locations, so that readers could vote for their favorite companies. And out of all that, we picked 15 companies. And again, in the kind of the virtual, in the bricks and mortar world, these companies would get exhibit space in the exhibit hall at Techshow as part of this little startup alley where they'd be featured in the center of Techshow. And also they would participate in a pitch competition, which was generally in the past the night before Techshow started, a live pitch competition in front of an audience where the audience would vote for the winner. So,
and you still had the pitch competition this year, if I am correct about that. But then how did...
Yeah, so we did the pitch competition as the opening.
Yeah.
It was the opening event of Techshow this year.
That's pretty cool.
We did it virtual this year.
How did you accommodate the exhibit booth qualifier this year? Like, did people get a meeting room in Zoom or something? Or how did you work that out?
You see, you said there weren't going to be any hard questions.
Is this a hard question?
This is a hard question. I have no idea what. I haven't actually been to the exhibit hall at Techshow yet this year, but I think they are getting the same kind of exhibit space that anybody else is getting. They are given whatever exhibitor space others are getting on the Techshow platform this year.
That's
but
the
I
answer.
haven't actually checked it out. I haven't actually checked it out.
I was very close to hitting my bucket list of stumping you, but it'll have to wait for another
all
year.
I really did was monitor. My main job was to run the competition for who gets in there, and then run the pitch competition that took place on Monday.
So, are you actually one of the judges, or are you just moderating the pitch competition at this point?
Well, I was one of the judges who picked the initial finalists who got to go into this, but the pitch competition was put out to a vote of the audience. So the Techshow audience,
that's cool.
We ran for an hour and a half on Monday. The Techshow audience got to watch these presentations. Each company presented a 2.5 minute video, pre-recorded video, which we required this year. I mean, usually they would present live, but
do it live, right?
This year we wanted a video so that we can keep the timing down. But they
sense.
also got to give a little 30-second live pitch or introduction of their video beforehand. So basically, each company got 3 minutes. Not a lot of time to present a product, but that's how pitch competitions go sometimes. And then
that's how it goes. Yeah.
At the end of it, we just put up. There was electronic voting, and the ones that got the most votes won.
Pretty straightforward. So let me ask you this: like, you've been involved in this for all 5 years, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Why do you keep coming back to do Startup Alley?
I love the opportunity to feature some of these up and coming startups. Just to give them that opportunity to be seen and give them some traction. I mean, it's great traction for a startup because, the Techshow audience is not just. I mean, it's a great audience of legal professionals, but it's also an audience of journalists and bloggers and influencers and investors and others. So it's just a great opportunity. Yeah.
Right. It's a pretty broad group. It's not just like a lawyers conference for only lawyers there. That makes a ton of sense. And I know you spotlight companies all the time, including startups, so it makes sense. So the winner this year was Freelance for Law. Founder of that company was Brian Bedard. What did you think was compelling about their pitch? Why do you think they won?
It's interesting because, they are, in a sense, not even really a tech. Well, that's not true. They're a tech company, but they're tackling this problem of smaller firms needing flexible staffing help. So more like a marketplace, more, like Law Clerk is another one that's out there right now. You've got a practice, and suddenly you get a surge in business. You don't want to hire an associate or something because you're not sure it's going to be a long term or whatever. So I mean, they tackle that by providing freelance, giving access to short or long term freelance legal help. One thing they do that's also interesting is that they also combine that with providing basically a simple practice management program for free. So any lawyers who are using their program get a fairly rudimentary, I think, practice management program on which they can manage their practices. So whether you're the lawyer looking for help or you are a lawyer, looking to offer your services to others on a freelance basis, it's a nice platform, and it's a nice way to get help or get work.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting angle, and I'm seeing that more and more where you've got a marketplace with kind of like an attached software tool that you just get as part of the service, which makes sense.
Yeah. Well, Zyra is another one out there right now that's doing that. A couple of others. I think it is a sign of the times that these kinds of freelance tools are doing better. I mean, this idea has been around for a while, but it's so many lawyers both need the work or need to hire the work, but just aren't able to make the commitment to something more permanent or more full-time.
Yeah, totally. Like, it's a good space for these companies to come out right now, which is probably why there are so many of them. I got one last question for you. 5 years of Startup Alley. How intimidating was this year's judging panel on a scale of 1 to 10?
The judging panel. Well, people didn't know who they were in front of. Yeah, usually this is in front of a live room.
Right. So is that worse or better, do you think, for people?
Well, again, they had their videos recorded, so maybe it made it a little bit made it a little bit
I feel like
better.
it might be almost worse. You're like watching yourself speak. You can't change anything. It's out there. That must be nerve-wracking. I think it's almost better to actually get up there and do the presentation.
Yeah. But, it's a great opportunity. And I'm actually sitting here as we've been talking, trying to find, I haven't been able to find, but I did a article one year on kind of whatever happened to the first year tech show Startup Alley people. And almost all of them went on to quite a bit of success. I mean, there were companies like Paladin, Trust Books. I mean, just a whole bunch of companies that came. Alt Legal came out of this. Any number of companies came out
Well,
of
that's how it's supposed to work, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So it's a springboard for people,
That's awesome. Well, I think this is a great thing that you do among many other great things that you do. And we have reached the end of this.
That's it.
On the Road podcast. That's all. Do you want to talk about anything else? I mean, we could talk later offline.
Yeah, we'll get a beer sometime.
We'll talk later. We'll talk about the good stuff offline. As I said, end of this On the Road podcast. I want to thank our guests today for joining us. That was Bob Ambrogi from LawSites and many other things. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in. If you like what you heard, please rate and leave us a review on your favorite podcasting app. We'll see you next time for another episode of On the Road with Legal Talk Network.
If you'd like more information about what you've heard today, please visit LegalTalkNetwork.com. Subscribe via iTunes and RSS. Find us on Twitter and Facebook, or download our free Legal Talk Network app in Google Play and iTunes. The views expressed by the participants of this program are their own and do not represent the views of, nor are they endorsed by, Legal Talk Network, its officers, directors, employees, agents, representatives, shareholders, and subsidiaries. None of the content should be considered legal advice. As always, consult a lawyer.